Hard to believe it, but we're already down to our final guest of today's program here on Travel Michigan. I'm Dave Lorenz, along with Michelle Grinnell. And Michelle, who is our last guest of the day?
Our last guest is Janet Korn, who is the Marketing Senior Vice President at Experience Grand Rapids. And, I'm very excited for this interview because now that Grand Rapids is my new hometown, I can find out all of the great things happening in my backyard. Right. So, Janet, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. It's nice to be a part of it.
So there is a lot going on. We've talked about Art Prize, and I'm sure we'll talk about that today. We've talked about the beer in Grand Rapids, and I'm sure we'll talk about that today. But kind of give people like that, why come to Grand Rapids?
Well, we've got, in addition to Art Prize and craft beer, we also have amazing art everywhere, all the time. So not just during Art Prize, but of course that really is our Super Bowl for art. Mm-hmm. But we've got great places to eat. We've got great live music, great things for families to do. It's a fun place to be in the fall. It's a fun place to be outdoors, celebrating the harvest. The trees changing colors, all of that.
Janet, do you think the city planners, when they put that big Calder statue up in basically downtown Grand Rapids years ago, they would have had any clue as to how the art scene would grow in Grand Rapids?
Well, I'm sure they have no idea that it could become as wonderful as it is today. But Grand Rapids really has a history that's deeply embedded in design. And, we've been designing fine furniture here back, over 100 years ago. Today, we're still the world's leader of the design of office furniture environments throughout the world. So I have a feeling that they hoped that piece of art, very publicly in the downtown, would help spur interest in art. And it's one of many, many pieces of outdoor art that are littered really all over our community.
Yeah, I agree. It is nice. And it's actually apropos that the city years ago decided to use the Calder Sculpture as kind of the iconic symbol of Grand Rapids. And look what's happened today. It's pretty phenomenal, really.
Really, we had a travel journalist visit from the East Coast several years ago, and I think I wouldn't want to exactly quote her, but she mentioned, the town that puts a piece of art on the side of their city service trucks and street signs is really into art and into design.
Isn't that true? Well, and Michelle mentioned the beer scene. Grand Rapids is certainly known as Beer City, USA. Why don't you just kind of take a minute to tell us about that?
Well, Founders is definitely our largest craft brewer that's distributing to several dozen states around the United States. But really, I think visiting craft breweries is about meeting the locals and kind of traveling like a local and getting to know the local brewers and their beer fans. And I think it's a great way to tour around a community and just really find out what the real pulse of the area is. So in addition to visiting their tap rooms and trying the products and beers that they make that they may only sell there, and trying their great food, we've got some amazing pizza and sandwiches and full dinners that are being served in our craft breweries, but it's also about meeting the people.
The caprese sandwich at Founders, one of my favorite sandwiches.
Oh, yeah. But there's some great pizza. So Mitten Brewery, Harmony Brewing, great other kinds of eats. And really, you can have a conversation. You can be quickly not become a stranger, I guess, meeting people locally and finding out where they suggest you go for breakfast the next day. And I think that's what really makes traveling fun, is you start to really get a sense of the culture of the community. Yeah,
of course, there are great places to eat all around the city. I have to ask you about the new city market, relatively new. It seems like it's new to me. Why don't you tell people about that?
Well, the downtown market is actually celebrating their first birthday, so it's exciting for us that it's been here already for a year. It's a LEED certified public market that is really, I like to refer to it as a food emporium, because you can buy food to try there, take with you, learn what to do with the new ingredients that you might not be familiar with. And so it's a place where you can come in when you're hungry and also pick up some souvenirs. And the indoor market is open 7 days a week. And there's cooking classes that people can take, but it's really a great place to meet the people who own the individual stores inside of the market and find out why they're there and what they're passionate about. And I think, again, it's another great place to meet the locals and kind of get a sense of the culture of the community.
Well, I think Grand Rapids has just become a really great food scene in general, and some of that may have to do with the fact that the city's kind of surrounded by agriculture and really kind of our bread basket, fruit basket, so to speak, and the products that are available. Can you talk a little bit about some of the farm to table and just, it's harvest time, what kind of things folks can experience?
Well, I think you're right about we are surrounded by this really rich agricultural area, and we do have a lot of fruit that's grown here, but we also have a lot of farms that are servicing our local restaurants. So I think it's become easier and easier to eat farm to table here, or slower food movement. So a lot of our local restaurant chefs are really embracing the local farms. They're getting lettuces and fresh vegetables really year-round. We have, in addition to the downtown market, we also have several other farmers markets, but I think the Fulton Street Market is probably our oldest and yet recently renovated, and well, really, it's all brand new. And I think for fall, there's farm markets littered all over because it is our fall harvest, and that's really, in addition to the trees changing color, it's when we can get all these really wonderfully local grown ingredients. And there's a couple ways to experience that in Grand Rapids. One is to go up into the Fruit Ridge area, which is where the peaches and apples are grown, and there's a variety of farm markets up there. And the other one is to plug into something called Kent Harvest Trails, which is where the farms actually open to the public. And really there's a website that you can find it on our site or on Kent Harvest Trails itself. And there's a map, and there's farms, and there's everything from hay rides to building scarecrows to corn mazes, apple cider making, and one of my favorite places is to stop by Robinette's Apple House.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a couple miles north of where Frederick Meyer Gardens and Sculpture Park is, and they have amazing donuts and apple cider there and hay rides, and it's really a great place to take your family.
Really is, especially on one of those beautiful fall Michigan days. Unfair question, but I'll ask it anyway with about a minute and a half to go. Let's say it's a rainy day and you're looking for something to do in Grand Rapids. Typical people maybe wanting to spend the weekend. What would you recommend?
Well, I always would suggest shopping.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorite rainy day activities.
Yeah.
But if I was looking for a little more culture, we have some amazing museums for people to check out. Grand Rapids is the hometown of President Ford, so we have a wonderful history learning museum with the President Ford's Presidential Museum. And it's open every day. And right across the street from that is our public museum, where you can see everything about the history of the region and the area, the people who founded here. And in October, starting October 18th, they have a pirate exhibit that's coming. And so if visitors to the area would want to be, to kind of like get your pirates on and put that on your list of places to visit if the weather wasn't great, and even if it is.
That's true. Well, and there are so many other great cultural institutions in the Grand Rapids area. You mentioned shopping, great shopping opportunities. You mentioned dining, beer, of course, art prize. There's something going in Grand Rapids year-round, all the time, and you're going to really enjoy fall in Grand Rapids. So check it out today, and if you'd like to do a little advanced planning, go to experiencegr.com. Thank you, Janet Korn, Marketing Senior VP, Experience Grand Rapids, for being with us today. And boy, that's wrapping up the show for today. We're already out of time. I want to thank Mark Blackwell for engineering today's program on behalf of Michelle Grinnell. I'm Dave Lorenz, inviting you to join us next week here on Travel Michigan, where your trip begins at michigan.org.